Good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the country and what time you're looking at this video. Hope that this video will inspire you to share the video and to begin to ask questions. Because believe me, questions need to be asked. As Americans, we all believe we have rights. We all believe we're covered under a Constitution. I'm here to tell you that you don't have any rights and you're not covered by the Constitution. You're covered by a corporation. And I'm going to explain as much of that as I can within the next half hour. Here's how this works. Our founding fathers, knowing full well what it was to live under oppression, decided to, one, declare their independence of the oppressor. So they created a document. That document, of course, was the Declaration of Independence. Now, we've all probably at one time or another heard about the Declaration of Independence, maybe even have read it, or have had somebody try and explain it to us. But it doesn't apply to us today. In 2021, Declaration of Independence doesn't apply to us. It was written 200 years ago. So then they came up with a document called the Constitution. Constitution for the United States of America. That was in 1787. That doesn't apply to us. I'll explain that. Then after that, our founding fathers came up with another document that was referred to as the Bill of Rights. Again, doesn't apply to us today in 2021. Now, so they did these three documents: Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights. If you ask people, they'll tell you that treaty law is the highest law in the world. Internationally, treaty law supersedes everything else. Not so. Not in my opinion. Then that's my opinion. But here's a reason I come to that opinion. Because what's really the highest law in the world is what is referred to as contract law. After all, a treaty is an agreement, i.e. contract, theoretically between two nations, two bodies of people. So, the rules and or mandates that are required by contract law would have to apply. So that would make contract law the superior law, because that treaty has to be written in accordance with contract law. So, one of the rules of contract law is that everybody that's party to the contract must know all the terms and conditions of the contract, i.e., must be transparent to all people that are party to the contract. And all people that are party to the contract must sign the contract. If you didn't sign a contract, you're not party to it. Hello. Did anybody out there sign the Declaration of Independence? Probably not. Anybody out there sign the Constitution? Again, probably not. Anybody out there sign the Bill of Rights? Probably not. What we did do, however, even if there was the possibility that these documents covered us by some inheritance or some heritage, we signed it away. How did we sign it away? Real simple. When we were, as an example, not the only example, but as an example, when we were young, that young teenage age when we were beginning to feel our own and wanted to have our own little pocket full of change, we wanted to go out and get a job. 12, 13, 14 years old. Go flip burgers at McDonald's. Well, I tell you, well, you can't do that unless you have Social Security number. Only using that as an example. So we go marching ourselves down to the Social Security office. We say we want a Social Security card, Social Security number, and they give you the number and you sign a little piece of paper. Signed a contract. You know what the terms and conditions of that contract were? Nope. But you signed it anyway. Now you got an agreement with a foreign corporation. And I'll explain the foreign corporation part in a minute. Now, another example would be a driver's license. The Constitution says you have the right to travel. So if you have the right to travel, why do I need the state permission to travel? If I had the right to travel? That's a question. Supreme Court many times has said that you don't need a driver's license. Driver's license is permission to be granted a privilege. So how can a right be turned into a privilege unless by contract? If you have to ask somebody for permission to do something, then it probably wasn't a right. It probably wasn't anything you owned. It was something that they owned and they're giving you permission to use it, i.e. a privilege. See how that works? Now let me go back to the Constitution of 1787. That Constitution was applicable and alive and was in full force and effect up until 1871. You see, in 1868, there was a Scottish company, and you can find this out if you research it on the internet. There was a Scottish company that came over to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, and formed a corporation. And the corporation title was United States of America Incorporated. Kind of catchy. But let's think about that for a minute. A Scottish corporation, which means that Scottish corporation, Scottish business, Scottish company, was operating under the auspices and or authority and or covering of the Crown of England, i.e. the King. So they pretty much had to do and comply with whatever the King's rules were. So then they come over here and they create a corporation. Had to comply with the King's rules. So Congress, unilaterally, without consent, without notice, without permission from we the people, under the 1871 Act, adopted this corporation as the corporation for Washington, D.C. So the District of Columbia now has become a corporate entity, i.e., federal, feudal government. So now what? They then compel the states to transform themselves into corporations so corporations can deal with corporations. So there you go. Now every state's a corporation, and they'll proudly tell you what year they incorporated. But they're foreign corporations. Why do I say that? These politicians and bureaucrats, they have to write down everything they do. They can't do anything without writing it down. They got to keep a record. Trick is finding out where that record is. Long time ago, I ran into a guy who, on some issues, was kind of a mentor. And he's the one that told me, he said, everything they've ever done is written down somewhere. You just got to find out where. So, over the course of time, I finally found out where they write all this stuff down. And it's a Latin phrase, corpus juris secundum. So if you look up corpus juris secundum, voila. There's where everything is. They explain how they did it. They explained what it is. They explained what it's about. In section 19 and section 20 of the corpus juris secundum, they'll explain to you what a corporation is and how and why a corporation such as the United States of America Incorporated is a foreign corporation, foreign to our republic. Now, here's the next little glitch. The corporation needed to have bylaws, so they came up with their corporate constitution, i.e., the second constitution for, or I should say, of the United States of America, because that's what it's called. The Constitution of the United States of America. That's the second Constitution. The first Constitution is the Constitution for the United States of America. They changed the word of and for. So now the trick becomes, which Constitution are you under? The 1787 Constitution or the 1871 Constitution? My guess would be the 1871. Why? Because you have signed into contract after contract after contract with the foreign government. Social Security, taxes, whatever. Everything you sign is a contract. Plain and simple. The only thing you have is contracts. Now, because you didn't know the terms and conditions of contracts, they're referred to as adhesion contracts, which, of course, are not lawful. Because contract law says you have to know and understand the terms and conditions of contract. If the terms and conditions of contract are hidden from you, then it's not a valid contract. The other thing, too, is it has to have valuable consideration, which most of what they've done has valuable consideration, because one way or the other, you're going to pay for it. At any rate, I digress. So, by contract, we've given away any hope of having some sort of claim to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, or the Bill of Rights. I'll give you a good point about the Bill of Rights. Recently, we've been having big conversations on the internet and over the airways about the Second Amendment and how we are guaranteed in the Second Amendment the right to bear arms and that cannot be infringed. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. We do not have the right to keep and bear arms, and it most certainly can be infringed. And the reason is because we entered into a contract with a foreign government that grants us privilege. They can't grant us a right because they don't own the right. All they can do is grant us a privilege under their corporation. And then they take that privilege and they keep adjusting it and keep whittling away at it until sooner or later it doesn't exist anymore, which is what they're trying to do, come after the guns. Because once they alleviate our ability to protect and defend ourselves, then they can pretty much do whatever they damn well please because we wouldn't be able to withstand their assault on our rights. So, does it matter what they come up with? Oh, you got to have this registration, you got to have that. Oh, you can't have more than 10 round clips. All of these things they can do. But it says in the Constitution that none of those things can be infringed upon. So, how is it they can infringe upon it when it says they can't infringe upon it? Because we're not under that Constitution. We're under their corporation. Perfect example. State of California. Corporation. They even proudly tell you when they formed the corporation. 1879. When was the Republic formed? 1849. So the Republic of California, which is what it says on the flag, only existed for 30 years. Then it became the corporation, State of California. Then the counties, corporations. They'll tell you when they formed the counties as corporations. And then the cities and municipalities. They're all foreign corporations, foreign to the Republic. And they all take a stab at adjusting your privileges, what used to be rights. So you do not have any rights. You are not covered by the Constitution. You only have privilege. Privilege they control because they're the ones that grant permission. If they're the ones that grant permission, then they must own that which they're granting permission for you to use. Make sense? If they don't own it, how could they grant permission? If they didn't own it, why would you go to them to get their permission? The fact that you went to them to get their permission and operate under their permission is a acceptance that they must own that which they're granting permission for you to use. Make sense? I can't go across the street and jump in my neighbor's automobile and drive down the street unless I have his permission because he's the one that owns it. He or she. Same thing here. I don't have any gun rights. I have gun permission. Oh, but I got to register. Oh, but I got to have certain clips. Oh, maybe I can't buy ammo. Oh, maybe it's too long a barrel or too short a barrel, or I can only have it for hunting season, or whatever conditions they want to put on their permission. Does it sound like a right? Does it sound like something that is not infringed upon? Travel. The Constitution says you have the right to travel. Oh, but you went and signed a contract with the state, corporation. It says, no, you don't have a right to travel. You have only privilege that we allow you. And this privilege, you gotta travel at a certain speed, follow certain rules, have certain qualifications for certain types of mechanical conveyances that you might drive. Notice driving. I've often wondered how an automobile became a vehicle. Definition of a vehicle by U.S. code is a uh, contraption either pushed or pulled by mechanical means engaged in commerce. Didn't know you were engaged in commerce traveling around in your private automobile, and you admit that it's a vehicle and that you're engaged in commerce when an officer stops you and says, can I see your registration and insurance and stuff for your motor vehicle? It's not a motor vehicle, it's an automobile. Ah. Then you say, how many passengers are in your motor vehicle? Passenger, by definition, is a person that pays for transport. So I guess if you have your family in there and they're passengers, they're paying you, or you have your friends or whatever, they're paying you to take them someplace. That's what's implied because you are operating a motor vehicle in commerce. You're not operating a private automobile. We can get down that road. So you see, everything's by contract. So you don't have any rights. You have privileges. You don't have any constitution. How do you fix that problem? Well, first things first, you got to sign a contract. If you didn't sign the contract, you're not covered by the contract. Did you sign the Declaration of Independence? No. Did you sign the Constitution of 1787? No. Did you sign the Bill of Rights? No. So why do you think that you were entitled to use them and have access to them when you never signed it in the first place? You were not a party to the contract. So therein lies the problem. You got to get rid of all the adhesion contracts you've done and sign the Constitution and sign the Declaration of Independence and sign the Bill of Rights. That's how you got to do it. So you go and you get yourself a really good copy of the Declaration of Independence. That's the first one. Down the bottom of the Declaration of Independence, there's a little area off to the left corner, lower left corner, that seems to be left blank. I don't think that was intentional. I just think that just happened. So you want to write in there a little line that says something like, you accept and agree to the terms and conditions of the Declaration of Independence, and you sign and date it. Now you've taken a historical document that's dead in some glass case in the Smithsonian on display, and you've turned it into a living document because it's got a current date and your signature. You go and have that notarized, and now you're ready for the next step. Same thing with the Constitution. Constitution of 1787. You go find that. You want to find that in really good condition, really good print, because usually it comes out when you print it out, you can barely read the thing because it's so blurry. You may have to pay for somebody's rewriting of it so that you have nice bold print. At any rate, you find a nice good copy that can be read, and I think it's 4 pages, memory serves me right, and you initial and date, just a little initial on the side margin, and date each page. And when you get down to the end of it, you sign it that you've agreed and accepted the Constitution with a current date, and you notarize that document. Then last but not least, you go to the Bill of Rights. And you do the same thing with the Bill of Rights. You print it out, you sign it, notarize it, then you send all three documents in. Once you've done that, you've removed yourself from their foreign corporation. Now you have rights. Now you have the Constitution, and now you are independent of their fraud and unconstitutional actions. That's how you fix the problem. Simple. You want your freedoms back? You want your Constitution to apply to you? You got to sign the contract. You don't sign the contract, it doesn't apply. It's really simple. And I can tell you from personal experience that you do this and they will take notice, because they no longer have any jurisdiction of their corporation over what you do. So that's the answer. If you think I'm wrong, I challenge anybody to go look it up. You can find the two constitutions. You can actually see big articles written about the two constitutions and the differences. This isn't something that is hidden away. It's all out there. You want your republic back? Then take it back. Get out of the foreign corporation, the fraudulent foreign corporation, unconstitutional, fraudulent foreign federal corporation, unconstitutional states, unconstitutional counties. They're all foreign corporations. There's more to be said. But again, I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. So if you have any questions, please refer them back. There'll be links and stuff added to this so that you'll be able to voice your opinion. Trust this, though. It's all a matter of contract. You want your rights? Sign for it. You want your constitutional standing? 1787? Sign for it. You want to declare your separation from this foreign corporation? Sign for it. Quit being a citizen and become a civilian of the republic. Then you are a free man or woman, gender not specific. So God bless you. God bless America. And think long and hard of what I just told you. If you do these things and you want to know where to send them, refer back. I'll do another video explaining where to send your signed, notarized, registered copies. With that, God bless. Have a pleasant afternoon or evening wherever you may be, and we'll see you soon.